Hello, everyone. Welcome to the InsightX Show. And in this show, we interact with industry experts who have experience in various domains, try to understand what they have done to reach this level, and also try to understand a lot of industry insights which might help you to make a transition as well. And today we have Rohit Sharma. Rohit has been into sales for over 16 years, and currently he is a director of global account management in Birdeye. Hi, Rohit.
Hi Vijeth, nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to meet you as well, and I'm grateful for the time you are giving to us today.
Like,
Through this conversation, we'll try to understand a lot more about your experience, what has helped you in the past, and what is it that you can give as some tips or guidance to a lot of other young folks who would want to get into this industry. Okay.
sounds perfect. Let's go.
All right. And this is one question I ask everyone I meet, and this has been my favorite question so far. Did you get into sales by chance or by choice?
Just to give you an insight about me, right? So I'll start off with when I started sales. So I initially did not start with sales. I was an intern at ICICI Securities when I was still in college. And that's how I started. And that was a sales role.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I worked there for like less than a year. And then, I was back to college. And then I didn't get into sales thinking there's so much stress of getting
Mm-hmm.
into sales and, hitting your numbers and all that. But then over the next few years, when I was doing different roles as IC, I was working as a trainer. I
Mm-hmm.
was managing a team of tech. And then I thought to myself, this is not giving me the thrill that I used to have when I started as an intern, right?
Okay.
So that's when 2014 I started the CS process in my previous company that was with IQ and a tech company.
Mm-hmm.
And it all started by chance, to be honest, because when I started the
Okay.
CS process, I started individually again. I started
Mm.
talking to customers, understanding how they use the platform, what would make sense to them, what are their goals, short term, long term. And in those conversations, a lot of opportunities started to come out. And I was not a sales guy, right? I was just doing a pilot for the organization, trying to understand the customer behavior. And then, I was having this discussion with our CEO, and he's like, why don't you go and sell them? I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I haven't done that, but I've been told that I'm very, very good at, making relationships. So he's like, why don't you leverage those relations, expand the customer portfolio, and it will be a
Mm-hmm.
win-win for both of us. I made my first sale, I think in 2014 again, when I was talking to a customer from Spain, and he
Mm-hmm.
invited me over to Spain.
Okay.
Basically, we were doing a project for them, and he sent me a couple of gifts. There was a project that we were doing. They were getting a lot of tabs from the government, and we had to
Mm-hmm.
install a product. And he's like, this is successful, and this has to go to 100,000 students. Why don't you come over? And that's how my journey into sales started all over again. And I haven't
Okay.
left it ever since. So you start by chance, but then it becomes your choice because you love the thrill.
Mm-hmm.
You love crunching numbers. If you're good with numbers, if you like crunching numbers, if you
Mm-hmm.
like excitement in your life, if you want to do more and you want to earn more, right? Because sales comes with a lot of privileges. It comes with a lot of money as well. So if you want
Yeah.
to do that, you should definitely get into sales. And that's been my journey towards sales. But it has all been keeping my customers in the front. I've never had a
Mm.
chance because I've always worked in tech in the last 10, 12 years. It has always been setting up that relationship, understanding the pain points, mapping a solution, and making a you know making a relation where both the parties are benefiting equally. When you start doing that, you love doing sales because
Yeah.
it's an equal opportunity for both to grow. So yeah, so started by chance, then became a choice and never got out of it. But I tell my team, I tell this to my team. I tell them, you know, we are into sales. So account management is also like it's an extended arm of sales, right? So you carry quotas, you have your numbers, monthly, quarterly, annual. I say it starts with stress
Mm-hmm.
and it ends with success.
Yeah.
right? So that's how
Yeah,
your month
makes
should look
sense.
like. Your month should start with a little stress because you have a large number to, a large gap to fill, but
Mhm.
it'll end with success. If you keep that in mind, you'll always be successful. So, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I think most of the people, if you see their journey, they have entered into sales by chance. Like even in my case, that has been the same. But now it is a choice. So it's like I don't want to leave it,
Yep.
right?
You don't get the thrill, when you are solving real world problems for the
Hmm.
customers and you are making them successful. It gives you more satisfaction than doing any other job.
Absolutely. Even now, right? Like even after 10 years for me, that one deal which comes in, right? Even if it's a small deal size or whatever, that thrill is totally different. Like I enjoy
Yep.
that, the moment you
Yep.
get an email signed, the contract is signed, then you get that thrill automatically, whether it's a $500 deal or a 500,000 deal. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean,
Yep.
that's what makes us, get through this day in, day out.
I
Yeah. And
remember my first sale, right? So it was in 2009, I think, when I was working with ICICI. So we used to do STPL, which is short-term personal loans. So this was a very small ticket loans for people with a low CIBIL and up to
Mhm.
50,000 rupees with a high interest rate.
Okay.
That used to be the first kind of sales that I started to do. And my first customer, I was told to visit and get the details from him. And I was still in college and I went to his home. It was a small house, like it was very small.
Hmm.
And we sat down and I had no idea what I'm doing there, right? But then he started telling me how he needs that money to fund his business. And, I started relating with it. And then I made sure that, I get everything done for the guy so that he can start his own business. And that still,
Hmm.
stays with me. Like I helped someone start his own business,
Yeah.
even if the interest was high, but it was for everyone. But,
Hmm.
that stays with you. Helping those customers realize that value, it stays
Hmm.
with me. I remembered every customers in my previous company, it was like you. I remembered every customer, like we had more than about 1,000 customers. I remembered every customer journey by heart.
Hmm.
So when I used to manage a team, anyone used to tell me, Rohit, I have this customer. I used to say he's the contact. They had this issue. You can go and check here and then here and then here. And they were like, how do you remember all these customers? I'm like, I've studied all of them.
Yeah. This is what happens when you love what you do, right? It's no
Yep.
more a job for you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, I have a follow-up question on what we discussed. A lot of people, right, today as well, they get into sales without a lot of clarity. They just get into it. Most of the people I see, because they didn't get into a lot of other jobs, they end up in this job. But then they know that there is a lot of money in it. They would want to learn that and, do more so that they can get
Yep.
more, right?
Yep.
Money becomes the primary motivation, and later, yes, customer satisfaction, keeping the customer happy, giving the value as much as you can, and all of that. So what do you think a new guy entering into sales today, okay, any form of role, maybe an SDR, an account executive, an account manager, any form of role, what should they keep on their mind for the first 1 year from the mindset perspective so that they can excel eventually?
That's a very nice question, and I think a lot of people would want to hear it. Honestly, a lot of people that I've seen who are new, and we also hire, a lot of people who are still like 2 years, 3 years into sales and account management. And a lot of these folks that I see are not consistent with their efforts, right? So whatever role you want to get into, Vijay, I think the number one thing is understanding that role. You know, number one,
Hmm.
understand the role that you are getting into. If you're getting into a sales role, what do you need to do to excel? For example, if you are getting into a sales role, what are the things that you need to, you can look good, you can have very good comm skills, but that's not going to get you to close a deal, right? So
Hmm.
what do you need to work on? There are certain very small things that you need to do, like discovery, having a good discovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Asking questions from customers, understanding what they want. A customer will never pay you or he'll never open a wallet if
Mm-hmm.
they like your product, right? They'll open their wallet if it solves a problem for them, right? When you understand that, and how do you understand that problem? You will ask questions. Any good sales rep, in my experience in the last 10, 12 years, have the most successful ones ask a lot of questions. They want to dig deeper into certain things. And then
Mm.
once you understand that, just continue hustling, continue learning about sales, right? Go read and listen to podcasts, see what other good salespeople are doing, how are they successful. So
Mhm.
you need to understand your role, then you need to understand your product, because if you don't know your product, you can't sell. A lot of
Yeah.
salespeople will get into calls, and then if a question comes out of the blue, they'll be like, "I'll get back to you. You know, let me
Mm.
check with someone," and that kills the trust, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That should never happen. You should know your product inside out. You should have
Mhm.
questions. If you have questions, you'll definitely, and then you should know how to connect the dots. You ask four
Mm.
questions, you can map four products, but no, you need to map a product that makes sense to the customer, not to you,
Yeah. Right.
right? And the third is consistency of efforts. A lot of people get
Mm.
successful again by chance or by luck, right?
Mhm.
And they feel like they've done it all. But
Yeah.
you are only successful if you are a lifelong learner.
Mm.
I'll give you an example of, you go to the gym, right? So I'll give you an example. You go to the gym and you'll see a lot of people doing a lot of things
Mhm.
in a bad form, right? Their
Yeah.
forms are
Yeah.
not correct, but they are consistent to the gym, and you'll
Mhm.
start seeing results in them as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually, with that consistency, you will see the form correction as well,
Mm.
right? Because
Right.
because once you are consistent, you'll make a community. You'll
Mm.
attract people towards you. And when you attract people towards you and you bring that community helps you to grow. So be consistent
Exactly.
in your efforts, and just make sure that I tell this to my team like every time. If you do 80% of your job every week, day over day, you'll hit
Mhm.
100% of your goals.
Yeah.
You don't need to hit
Right.
do 100% every day. Just do 80% day over day. Make sure you do that. In sales, there are some what we call a waterfall, right? There are some
Mhm.
keys to success. For example,
Yeah.
an outbound call, an email,
Mhm.
a follow up, account research, account tiering. You do that every
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you do that every day, and you'll hit your goals. And you don't need to
Mm.
do 100%. Just do 80% of it, and you'll hit 100%. And you want to excel, do 100%. You'll hit 120, 130%,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think discipline and consistency are very important, as you said here. Right. Skills, you will learn them. You will evolve over time on the skill sets. And what I feel is, as you are trying to be disciplined, sometimes whatever you do day in day out becomes monotonous and boring as well.
yep,
But you got to keep doing it, because it is going to take you somewhere where you want to go, right? It will help you reach that
absolutely.
goal what you have in your mind. Okay, as you manage the team, how do you ensure that your team, right, doesn't get bored of what they do on daily basis? Because most of the thing, I think at least 60-70% of what they do on daily basis is same, right? They might not be doing anything very differently. So what do you do to ensure that, they are enjoying what they're doing, they're not feeling it's boring and all of that?
So I think salespeople hardly, I'm sorry, I think sales reps hardly they get bored of what they do, because there's always a thrill with closing a
Mm-hmm.
customer, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
always that hustle to hit their quotas. From a management perspective, I think you need to ensure a couple of things. Keep reiterating that they need to do this, right? They forget very easily.
Yeah.
Even the best ones do. And then challenge them, challenge their skills. A lot of a lot of management professionals, in my opinion, fail because they also forget the very basics, which is coaching and feedback,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And pick up your best rep, challenge them on what they are doing, how they are taking their calls, what could they have done better. Challenge them on these
Mm-hmm.
things someday. you know
Yeah.
Make them the center of attraction in your huddles, and question
Mm.
them on certain things, just to keep it interesting. Always bring up new ideas on how to sell within the team. as a professional. So my role is very strategic in that sense, right? So I don't look at the day to day for my reps. The managers do. So since I manage the global teams, I've got some managers in the US, some managers in Australia, and then there's a team that I manage directly. So
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that they take care of the day to day, and I make sure that I do the strategic part. What can we do more, short term and long
Mm.
term? Plan for today, right? While you also plan for the future. So
Right, right.
strategically making sure that there's enough pipe, there's enough customers, there's enough outreach that is possible, or what more
Mm.
you can do in terms of setting up a webinar for the customers, or making sure that you do a crowd coaching session in the team and make it fun. You don't have to penalize anyone. Pick up call that
Yeah.
makes no sense, right? And then don't run that session. Tell your teams to run that session.
Mm.
Challenge your reps. Ask them, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in that situation?
Yeah.
Understand their mindset. Make them learn from each other. So keep doing that in the team and then meet them. Like we work in a remote environment. I'm here today in Gurugram. I'm meeting my managers. It's been
Mm-hmm.
a couple of months I had met them. So I'm here just to meet them, take them out for a dinner, and
Mm-hmm.
drink. So meet your teams. It's very
Mm.
important to have that human connection. They should know who they are talking to on a day-to-day basis. Spend some time understanding about their life, what they do outside of the office.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when you're working with a team for a long time, it becomes your family. You're spending 9 hours with them.
Yeah, yeah.
So there will be a lot of people in your family that doesn't align with your ideas, thoughts, but they're family at the end of the day,
Right,
and you challenge them. They challenge you, you challenge them. It becomes a family.
right.
So keep
Yeah.
it interesting for them. Do strategic initiatives in terms of coachings,
Mm-hmm.
ideas in terms of what more you can do, and just do it month over month. They may not like it. I'll tell you, you get a lot of pushbacks. Like everything's working fine for us, Rohit. Why do we need to do this? Right?
Yeah,
But I ask them, why not? And what is the harm? Right?
yeah.
Do it, and you'll see that they'll always be on their toes. They'll always, and when they move out and they go to their next role, because everyone does at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
they come back to you and they tell you it was so much fun working here, right?
Right.
We don't get that environment because then you're working with them like an elder, like a brother, a figure who they can rely on. They can give you a call and just talk about their personal stuff also. It
Mm-hmm.
becomes a family. You go to them and you're like, guys, I don't know where we need to get that business from. I'm getting blasted today. What can you do? And I've had instances where reps have come to me and say, Rohit, don't worry, we'll get something for you.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
know they do not have a pipe, they do not
Mm-hmm.
have anything, and they get the business done at the end of the day. And that makes you
Yeah.
feel that it's a family.
Exactly. I think it's same, right? What I have figured out from my experience managing teams in the past as well is if you are genuinely concerned as a sales leader, what I feel is you should be genuinely concerned about two things. One, your customer, and second, your team, right? If you are genuinely concerned, you are gonna be there for them, do things for them, help them, coach them, lift them, and they'll reach. And when they reach wherever they are supposed to reach, they will know that it's because of you they reach, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
listen to you more, right? And
yeah.
they'll follow you more, and then they do more. That's the cycle that way. Yeah. I think
And
at your level, right? Yeah. Please go
at
ahead.
at Bird Eye, what we did in 2023, something that's been at the end of 2023, something that's been huge success for us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is we wanted to appreciate and celebrate the wins, and we wanted
Mm-hmm.
people to grow.
Mm.
In our culture, we usually have an annual appraisal cycle.
Mm-hmm.
People do well, then there's annual appraisal cycle. And Vijay, you've been in the industry, if you've got three
Yeah.
bad months just before the appraisal and you've done so well in the year,
Yeah.
everything goes for a toss, right? So,
Right.
but why not celebrate when
Mm-hmm.
you're on top, right? So we introduced a career path for AMs in our
Okay.
organization. So it's very interesting. So we introduced a career path, which whatever level you join us. So we introduced
Mm-hmm.
AM 1, 2, 3, senior AM,
Mm-hmm.
principal AM, then you can opt for a lead position. So we made 6 roles. Now,
Mm-hmm.
whatever role you join us at, let's say you join as an AM1, you carry a
Mm-hmm.
certain quota. you get your ramp period, you go through training, you get your ramp, and then you hit your full quota, right? That's
Got
the
it.
fourth month.
Yeah.
From that month, if you are pretty successful in your job and you're hitting quotas month over month, we call it a promo. You get a promo every month. You make money, that's your variable, but you get a promo. You hit 120% for next 3 months, you get promoted.
Oh, got it.
So imagine someone joining an AM1, the fourth month they are on the floor, and then they hit their quota for next 3 months at 120%, and they get promoted to AM2. Their quota goes up
Yeah,
a little bit, but they also get a hike of 15 to 20%
exactly. And
in
that's in a
six
span of like
months.
within 6 months. Yeah.
Six. And then it doesn't stop. You hit another 3 months, 120%, you get another promotion.
Yeah.
And then you hit another 3 months, you get another promotion. So in 1 year of working with Bird Eye, you can get scaled to 100% hike.
Yeah.
And for a sales rep, there's
Mm-hmm.
no bigger motivation than money, in my opinion,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right? It drives them to hit their
Mm.
numbers. They know that they need to hit that number. So, and we didn't stop at like a 120, 25%, whatever we kept it.
Mm-hmm.
We kept it at 100% also. So you hit 100%, we kept it like rolling months. You hit 4 out of 6 rolling months, you get to the next level.
Mm.
So, make them successful, give them a path, clear path on how they can scale in the company. A lot of sales rep, they're very successful in an organization. They wait for a year, they get a 10, 15, 20% hike if they on the higher
Exactly.
side, if they are really good. And then what? They continue doing the same work, right? They carry the same quota. They do another good year or maybe
Yeah.
not, and they don't get that hike. And then they're like, it's
Mm.
time to switch, right?
Right. Right.
So we have a path for them to scale in the small business and then move to upmarket as well. So, you are really good at your job, you're a senior AM in Bird Eye, and you want to move up the ladder and manage
Mm-hmm.
bigger customers. We have a way for that also.
Got it. I think this is something which will keep them motivated all the time, and
Absolutely.
uh, uh, it'll it'll increase the retention as well, right? As they see the clear growth path, they wouldn't want to move
Yep.
out very soon,
Yep.
right?
Yep. See,
Nice.
it's very simple. Why do people move out of an organization? They get a higher salary. For
Yeah.
for an AM, let's say, even if they get like a three lakh annual hike, that's still about
Mm-hmm.
25,000 rupees a month.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense to them. But if you can give
Exactly.
them a hike in the same company in 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a written policy with the HR, you don't need to do anything, right?
Mm.
You do that and you get scaled. Nobody can stop that for you,
Exactly. No
right?
politics, nothing, purely
Nothing.
merit.
Purely
Yeah.
merit based.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I really love that what you guys are doing over there, right? Uh, Rohit, the time you have spent, right? It's a vast amount of time you have spent in this industry over a decade, right? You're almost approaching the second decade. How do you see this industry evolving, and what are a few things you have noticed? And how do you think this year and the next year is going to be so that it can help someone, prepare themselves to get into this? Talk a bit
So
about the evolution that you have seen.
yeah, I think over the last 1 year, what we've seen is the customers have become very smart,
Mm-hmm.
right? They know what they're spending on and
Yeah.
they know what they want to spend on. There are a lot of
Mm.
options in the market, and you need to be really good with your product knowledge. You need to be
Mm-hmm.
really good with your product. It has to add a real value to the customer
Mm-hmm.
for you to continue retaining those customers and expanding those customers.
Yeah.
That's the biggest shift that I've seen in the last 1 year when it comes to the evolution of the market.
Mm.
The customers are not, they like your product, it's a fancy product, it'll do this and that. They want to see the ROI. They want to
Mm.
have, even a small business customer, they want to see the ROI. They want to sit down and talk about their journey. They want to sit down and see how they've evolved as a customer with you and what
Yeah.
ROI have you provided. This wasn't something a lot of small business customers were doing, but they now want to do that, right?
Mm.
So your job is not just to sell anymore.
Yeah.
It has to be an experience that you provide to the customer. It has to be a value that you give to the customer. So that
Mm.
has changed in the last 1 year. And from an AI perspective, right, in the last six
Mm-hmm.
months, we've seen AI evolve so much.
Yeah.
Your customers have answers to everything. They can
Yeah.
just go to a chat GPT, a DeepSeek. And
Right.
similarly, the AMs, anyone who's getting into the industry, they need to start, I think, getting more into the AI side of things as well.
Mm.
It makes their job easier. To give you
Yeah.
an example, right? If you're working with a vertical, so
Mm-hmm.
let's say you're working with a particular vertical in AM,
Mm-hmm.
what makes sense to that vertical if you're working with customers in the US and it's a different geography, you may not know a lot of things that happen within, let's say, an HVAC customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is their right season for them to boost their business, boost their
Mm-hmm.
marketing efforts, and so on? You go to Chat GPT, you go to DeepSeek, and you kind of understand what works in their vertical.
Mm.
It's a learning for you as an AM.
Yeah.
It's and when you talk with the customer, when you're discussing that with the customer also feels that you're an industry expert,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So start including that research when you
Mm-hmm.
talk to your customers now, because they expect that from their account managers, from their customer success managers, that you should be an industry expert who should know when is our high time, when is our maintenance time, when is our growth time. And
Mm.
I think that's the key to being successful right now. We use a lot
Yeah.
of, we are an AI first company now.
Mm-hmm.
We've incorporated AI into a lot of our products as well.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, with from the AM side, we've started using leveraging AI into a lot of our emails, into a lot of our research,
Mm-hmm.
into a lot of our campaigns that we do, value proposition. So that is something that has changed over the last 6 months, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
customer behavior has evolved
Yeah.
significantly
Yeah.
in the last 1 year. They've become
Right.
very smart. And that's a good
Right.
thing. As a
Yeah.
consumer, you need to know what you're paying for, right? And what
Mm-hmm.
value you're getting out of it.
Right.
So when the customers have become smart, you need to stay a step ahead and be smarter at your job.
They can no more be manipulated now, right? The
They
old
cannot.
school technique.
It
We
doesn't
know
work
everything,
anymore.
information at their fingertips. And yeah, that's a good, valid point that you said. You have to position yourself as an industry expert. That's the only way out now, right? That's how they'll start trusting you. And when they trust you, eventually they're going to do more business with you, right?
Yep. And no more pushy sales.
Yeah, yeah.
That
I
time
think
has
gone are
gone.
those days,
Yeah, that time, right?
right?
That's that time is long gone now. You can't
Hmm.
get into something, say that, I've sold this and that, and my customers have done this and that, and then they'll be like, oh wow, let's go ahead and buy this product also. That's not going to work. You need to
Right.
show
Yeah.
real world case studies. You need to show examples. You need to show what works for other in the same
Yeah.
industry to build that value, trust, and then you can sell. So
Mm.
as soon as you understand that as a customer success manager or an AM, I think the
Yeah.
better for you.
Right. Yeah. No, just yesterday I was talking to a new customer who got onboarded with us, and it was the first meeting. I just told him directly, see, look, I'm a very bad sales guy. Okay. So I don't use any sales tactics to persuade you, manipulate you, nothing. I only expect we both talk to each other regularly. That's it. And whenever I see something, which can help you, I would definitely suggest that to you. That's all I do. Okay. And he felt happy. He was like, yeah, I know a lot of account managers, they try to push me into it. This is what happens. I thought you guys, that's the expectation I had from you guys as well. Eventually, you'll try to sell, sell, sell. I don't know. I'm not going to sell. I can't sell anymore. You know everything, right? So you have all the information. Why will I try to sell it to you? But I do have a lot of internal information, a lot of industry insights, which can help you grow better, right? So if we can have an open conversation about it on a regular basis, and that's going to benefit both of us.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what they like these days.
Yep.
Calling them back to back, following up back to back. Nobody's going to like that
But I
anymore.
will tell you one more thing, Vijay. It's very different when you're talking to a small business customer,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Let's say a dentist who's got like
Mm,
one office, or you're talking to a contractor,
mm,
who's carrying the phone and taking your calls while working at the same time, right? But he's generating a lot of revenue. It's very difficult. And the sales cycles are also pretty small for small business
yeah, yeah.
customers. So how do you bring that value in a 30, 40 minutes?
Right.
Because,
Yeah.
you've got quotas to hit at the same time. How do you bring
Right.
that value in a 30, 40-minute conversation while you're on a demo and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you get out of there successfully?
Mm,
That becomes a challenge. You can't tell I'm not here to sell.
Yeah. Right.
right? So how do you do that? And I think, again, this is for a lot of AMs out there who are working in the small business space. Do your research on the accounts.
Hmm.
See the white space. When you do your account research, when you go and check their website, when you see their customer journey, when you see their customer history, how many times do they log in? How many times
Hmm.
do they, do X, Y, and Z? You
Hmm.
know, Go and check their websites. Are they opening any new locations?
Hmm.
When you get into a demo with the customer, ask them what does their business looks like. I
Yeah.
love talking about my business here, right?
Hmm.
Every business owner does. Ask them
Exactly.
those questions. Tell me about your business. And then when you get into details of their business, you'll
Mm-hmm.
always find something that resonates with your product,
Mm-hmm.
their problems, and a solution that you can all cover in 40 minutes.
Hmm.
But then again, do your research and make sure that you ask questions. Ask relevant questions. Don't ask questions like, how's the weather in the US today? So
Yeah.
again, those days are gone, right?
Right.
So ask relevant questions, see what makes sense to them. At the end of the day, every business owner wants to make money. The reason they buy products is because they want to generate revenue. So the end
Hmm.
goal for them is also revenue, just like you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you make sure that you both align on something where they generate
Hmm.
revenue and you generate revenue?
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. I think, yeah, that's a good point you brought in. I wanted to ask about this as well. We talk a lot about discovery, and I strongly believe discovery is very important. Right. That's the core. If you are in SaaS or B2B, how does an account executive or an account manager ensure that they are constantly evolving with their discovery process as well? Account research is one thing you said. Know your account. That's what I call it. KYA. Know your account. All right. What else do you think is important for them so that they're constantly learning something new and they are making their discovery call stronger?
I think with discovery, every customer is different. So when you say know your accounts, you also need to make sure that you tier your accounts, the high
Mm.
value, growth, and
Yeah.
maintenance. So make sure that you always have a book which is high value, right?
Mm.
Where there's more meat on the bone, as to
Mm.
say,
Mm.
right? In terms of how they are using your product, how many times do they log in, what kind of white space do they have. These are your high
Mm-hmm.
value accounts, happy customers looking to expand, looking to grow. Then come your growth accounts, right? Where your opportunity window is a little smaller, but still
Mm-hmm.
a potential to grow. And then your
Mm.
maintenance accounts.
Right.
Opportunity to sell is very low, the
Mm.
adoption is low. So make
Mm.
sure that you have tiered your book. Every manager, account manager carries a book, right?
Yeah.
Tier your book, right? Know your customers, know your accounts, but know
Mm-hmm.
them from inside out. Now, once you do that, then you can have a very strategic approach on which
Mm.
accounts you want to outreach, right?
Yeah.
That's the first part. Now you've narrowed it down to your accounts, you've narrowed it down to, let's say, 60, 70 customers that you want to reach
Mm-hmm.
out to and build your pipe with. And then you get into the next part of it, which is the discovery, right? Now, when you get into discovery, I think don't get into a conversation again. I may, you know, say the same thing again to sell your product, right? And I'll give you examples. We had and we still have people who are very good at selling a certain product in our
Mm-hmm.
portfolio. And their discovery will always be centered around that product. And,
Yeah.
it makes sense to them, it makes sense to the customer, but it's not a priority for the customer to buy that product.
Mm.
And that's where you lose, right?
Yeah.
Now, as a leader who's going to sit and give coaching and feedback, when you are ticking all the boxes and as an account manager, you've done your discovery, right? You've asked some relevant questions and then you
Mm-hmm.
pitched the product. Why didn't it sell, right? Because you're
Yeah.
trying to sell a product that you like,
Right.
right? So your discovery should always be aligned with uncovering a pain point, right? And to evolve in that, I think ask them their industry relevant questions, their goals and vision
Mm-hmm.
for their business, right? What is their idea of buying your product? Like when
Right.
they onboarded, right, with you, what was the goal that they had in mind? Did they set any
Mm.
milestones, right? Have you hit those milestones? What are the next milestones they are looking at? What are the
Right.
roadblocks in that milestone? And every SaaS product will have like additional products that align with that
Mm.
vision. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So the more questions you ask, and these aren't a lot of questions with it. This
Mm-hmm.
is like a 5 to 10 minute conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
let the customers talk,
Yeah.
right? Let them talk. Don't talk. Don't talk a lot. You'll see a lot of, and since you've been managing a team, you'll see a lot of talk time is with the account managers.
Yeah.
And in that talk time, they will usually miss out on so many cues that the customer is giving them about a problem
Mm-hmm.
he's having because they're
Mm-hmm.
more focused on talking. So they forget
Right.
about the active listening part.
Mm.
They don't listen completely and then they're not able to map a solution.
Mm. Yeah.
So I think that's
Got it.
that's the key to discovery also. If you don't listen to your customer, if you don't connect the dots, you are going to fail in your discovery also. You may check some boxes in your scorecards, right?
Yeah.
But then you wouldn't be able to sell.
Right. Right. I think, yeah, this was one more question I was about to ask you. Knowing when to sell, when not to sell is important as well, right? So when you wear a consultant cap and then when you wear a sales guy cap, so that you need to know when to switch that, right? I mean, do you have something to add on that? How can someone switch and know when to switch?
I mean, know when the timing is right, Vijay.
Mm.
For example, if they don't have a budget
Mm-hmm.
to spend at the moment, while you show ROI, if they don't
Mm-hmm.
have the budget to sell, don't push it on them.
Mm.
Right? When, let's say, you're pushing for a sale and that could eventually damage the relationship, right? Because you want to hit your quotas, don't sell.
Mm.
When the client is already going through some challenges with your product,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's say they've had a tech issue, their integration got broken, or something similar, or they've had a billing issue. Fix those
Mm-hmm.
problems first, let them settle down for some time, and then talk
Yeah.
about your services, right?
Right.
So
Right.
always make sure that you find the right time. Even with the budget thing, right? A lot of times we, as AMs, I think we want to show the ROI that your product will give them in numbers, right? When you put
Mm.
numbers to a product, like, I'm on the lower side, I say that you get 10x ROI from, let's say, $100 product. So you still make
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 by spending $100. So what's the problem? Do you not want to make that $1,000? But I don't
Mm-hmm.
have the budget right now as a customer. I can't spend
Right.
money. Take a
Mm.
step back, right? Ask them what's the right time for them to do this. When do they open their budget? And then
Mm-hmm.
set up a follow-up meeting,
Mm.
right? A lot of times the customers don't agree and we are like, okay, move on to the next customer,
Mm.
right? There's not a strong follow-up process a lot of AMs will have if they're working on a scaled customers or a volume book, right?
Mm.
They will forget about that customer because they didn't give him the revenue at that point in time and they move on to the next customer. So always have a follow-up process with your customers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have clear notes in your CRMs. Make sure that you're documenting everything. What was the
Mm.
discussion about so that even if you're not in the system, someone else can
Yeah.
come in and just go on from there, right?
Yeah. Right.
So that's when not to sell, right? And when to sell, every time is a good time to sell if it aligns with the customer's needs
Mm.
and values. So if you see that opportunity that it's adding value to them, make sure that you do your job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, that's very important to know the timelines so that, you're not pushing them at the wrong time and then they start avoiding you, right? The moment they get to know that, okay, this person only calls me to sell. He's not adding any sort of value. He just doesn't, he or she does just wants to sell to me. That's it. And that's when I think they stop responding and they stop responding. It means you got like one account moved out. That's it,
Yep,
right? So you
yep.
have one chance less.
And
That's
I'll
fine.
tell you, a lot of time, Vijay, you'll have customers who, because it's very common for them to have account managers with a lot of companies now, and they know the
Hmm.
playbook,
Yeah.
right? Like I said, customers have become smarter, right? So
They
they
have
know
become
the
smarter.
playbook.
Yeah.
They know that, you've come here, in a sheep's cloth, but you are really a wolf. You want to talk very good about, their success, but you want to basically sell them, right? But that's not the case. If you get a pushback from your customers in the beginning, see, I don't want to buy anything, right? And a lot of times the AMs go on a back foot.
Hmm.
I won't be able to sell this customer, right? So at that point in time, don't talk about a sale. Talk about their
Hmm.
journey,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Talk about the journey. Make sure you still ask those discovery questions. Do not
Right.
make that mistake of not asking, because when you start asking those discovery questions, then the customer will ask you, what is the price of the product that you are referring to me,
Yeah.
right? And then again, take a step back and say, I
Mm.
understand that you don't have a budget at this point in time, but this just cost X dollars. And like we discussed, this is going to add this much value. So what
Mm.
time do you think is the best when we can have this discussion again, right?
Yeah.
Most of these times customers end up buying the product also,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so just make sure that, clear next steps, you do your band properly,
Mm.
right? I've never had any formal sales training, honestly. Like, yeah,
Okay.
a lot of people say I've done spin selling and I've done,
Mm.
you know, uh, but I usually, it's like having a discussion with you right now. As
Yeah. Yeah.
open as you can be about your business, your product, your services, understanding what the customer does. I think we
Mm-hmm.
Indians are very good at selling the products.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
do it on a day-to-day basis. We have so many conversations with people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes naturally to you sometimes,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I think just make sure that you do your basics right in terms of your
Mm.
discoveries. Even if the customer is pushy, do your discovery, set up clear next steps with the customers. A lot of people miss out on that, and make sure you document everything. That's the key to success.
Yeah. I mean, not forgetting to ask those questions, even if you know that, the customer is pushing back, asking the questions in a right manner so that customer is comfortable answering. That makes a lot of sense. Right. And even the CRM notes part you said, yeah, in my organization, we have a rule. If it's not on CRM, it never happened. So it's like that. Documenting is very important so that, you remember it next time when you talk, or someone else who's managing that account gets to know everything about that account. Yeah. Now that we are talking about account management a lot, right? This is something I also see in the market currently. A lot of SDRs, a lot of account executives, right? Somehow after a certain amount of experience, they are, interested to get into the account management process. Because from where I come from, what we see, right, most of in the B2C in the past, in my experiences, for us, it's like, okay, SDR, that's the entry point to get into SaaS. Then slowly you become an AE, you start closing. Then you start managing the accounts of the company. So you can account manager. Or if you are a tech savvy guy, you can become a CSM as well and help the customer adapt the products. So what do you think an SDR or an AE who wants to get into the AM role keep on their mind if in case they're planning their transition this year?
I think again, every role is different. Like if you're trying to get into an AM role and you are working as an SDR, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be challenging if you've not done closing
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So my number one advice to people would be to get into a closer role in the same organization first. You
Hmm.
know your product, you are doing a great job in your organization as an SDR, move up the ladder, right?
Hmm.
Move up the ladder, get into a closer role, see if this is something that you're good at, if you can
Hmm.
scale up to. Normally people who are looking for promotions to an AE level, they are hustlers, they want to learn and they want to spend time understanding, and they see those conversations happening with customers where they feel that they can also sell, but
Hmm.
because that's not their job, they don't do that. So that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
inclines them to move to an AE role. So move up the ladder, go to an AE role, manage some accounts yourself, close some sales,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when you should know that you can now transition from an AE to an AM role. I think moving from
Hmm.
an AE to an AM role is still easier because
Mm-hmm.
you do a lot of discovery when you're doing new
Mm-hmm.
business also. You have
Yeah.
your follow-up cadences, you have outbound experience, and you
Mm-hmm.
know how to negotiate with the customer on the pricing. So it becomes a
Mm-hmm.
little easier, but at the same time, it also depends on the kind of sales processes you are into. A lot of these new business sales processes are not,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get a lot of face time except the product you're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you can't, because an AM is a very, very, in my opinion, it's a mix of CS and sales,
Yeah.
right? You have to wear different hats as an AM. You
Mm-hmm.
need to know your product. Sometimes get into a conversation where you're just talking about the product, fixing
Yeah.
something on the account, and not doing sales at all. So if you're
Mm.
okay doing that, right? If you can do that for the next 30, 40, or 1 hour, right?
Yeah.
Then, and not get like burned out, like I can't do this, I'm just helping customers, then don't get into an AM role if you just want to close. So, but if you really want to help customers scale, expand, grow,
Hmm.
then get into an AM.
Yeah. Makes sense. First get into a closing role and then make a transition into account management kind of roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
That's what this.
we've had experiences with hiring some SDRs also, and it
Hmm.
took some time for us to scale them in the role,
Hmm.
right? So the ramping becomes difficult, and
Okay.
then you don't make a lot of money as an AM because you're not able to
Yeah.
hit your quotas. You
Right.
get exceptions, but the learning curve is pretty difficult, and a
Hmm.
lot of companies will not have the patience with you to stick around,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So do it once, and then you can do it twice. So do it
Yeah.
once in the same organization, see yourself where you stand in terms of, your skill set,
Hmm.
work on those skill sets to improve yourself, and then get into an AM role.
Yeah. Got it. I have one more question on the similar lines. Okay. This is about a lot of folks from the B2C vertical. Currently,
Mhm.
you also might have observed this transitions happening. A lot of people from fields like maybe they are into any sort of other online sales, e-commerce sales, or they're from edtech, right? Which is again one of the biggest industry. They are today focusing to get into B2B side or SaaS sales. And somewhere, at least in the conversations I have had with a lot of my friends in the past, they feel that a lot of SaaS companies doesn't recognize us. They say that okay, you come from edtech sales, maybe you don't know selling properly or something like that. Uh, what is your opinion on this? And if let's assume I am an edtech guy. I am an edtech guy to be honest. I come from that background. Okay, yeah, you are an edtech guy. So if I am an edtech guy today, I am in an individual contributor role. I have good experience, 2, 3, 4 years. I have now. I have spent. I know what is sales. Now I want to get into the SaaS sales, maybe as an SDR. I'm sure A would be difficult for someone to get into at the initial stage. But let's say I want to become an SDR. How do you think I should prepare for this? And is it really true that most of the companies don't prefer people from B2C? Like, what's your thought? You would have done a lot of interviews in the past. You have a lot of experience on this. So please shed some light on this.
So first of all, I come from edtech, right? I spent 9 years in the edtech myself before I moved to martech, right? So they gave me a chance, and
Yeah.
my company's been pretty successful with giving me a chance. It's all about talking. I think we'll cover that in two phases, right? From like your own perspective as a hiring manager, should you
Mm-hmm.
do it and or should you not do it? And
Mm-hmm.
one of my leaders always said, if they've done sales, talk to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just talk to them because a lot of things are not visible on the resume, but when you talk to people, you kind of understand their mindset about sales,
Mm-hmm.
their approach towards sales, and you
Mm-hmm.
feel that it aligns with your role more than a lot of AMs that you're interviewing.
Hmm.
Don't reject people on the CVs. That's for hiring managers. I don't do that
Okay.
a lot of times because there are now TA teams. There are now, you review your CVs and then you pick the best ones
Mm-hmm.
out of them, and we
Hmm.
look for relevancy. But my advice to these hiring managers, if they've done sales, even if it is in B2C or EdTech, EdTech is a
Mm-hmm.
great place to sell, in my opinion. You don't sell easily in EdTech also,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if they've done that, talk to them, understand what their mindset is in terms of sales, how they approach their customers, and then from their perspective, I think they need to learn a lot about the marketing. They don't.
Hmm.
A lot of times I interview people, a lot of people from, let's say, B2C, or let's say a BPO or a KPO that they're working in, they've spent like 10 years there and they now want to move into SaaS.
Mm-hmm.
They've done good job. It's all reactive
Mm-hmm.
motion that they have because you get inbounds and you do sell also and you're really good at it. But there's
Yeah.
nothing proactive that they do. And they don't
Hmm.
learn. They don't research about the job that they're getting into. They don't research about the product they're getting into. And that
Yeah.
kills the
Yeah.
conversation in the very first 10 minutes,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
The third thing is always when you're talking, when you're giving an interview,
Mm-hmm.
always talk about things that make sense to that company and that role in particular, right? If you give me a long-winded answer for 20 minutes about how you've done something and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't resonate with what I'm hiring for, then you are a rejection, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Always talk about relevancy in terms of the role that they are hiring for and what you did that kind of resonates with it.
yeah.
That's very important,
Right.
right? So give examples and give examples on how you did something.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you start connecting the dots that, we can give it a chance or we can give it a shot. And we've done that.
Mm.
We've done that in our organization. We've had some of the best reps that came through. They worked in B2Cs, they worked in field sales and not a
Mm.
lot of online sales, and they were pretty successful with us.
Yeah, right.
So hiring managers, make sure that you talk to people, even if
Right.
it's a 15-minute conversation. Don't reject people on the CVs.
Mm.
And same goes for the TAs, right? I know it's a difficult world out there. You post one job opening and there are 2,000 applications that you see, so it becomes difficult. And then for the people, you'll see that a lot of CS folks, a lot of folks start applying to jobs which is not
Mm-hmm.
relevant to what they're doing.
Yeah.
Also, see relevancy in what you want to, how you want to scale your career. If you
Mm.
want to get into sales, like you said, start with an SDR role,
Mm.
right? You know how to, let's say, dial numbers and you know how to
Mm.
get customers on the line and how to set up demos. You've done that in
Mm.
your previous B2C company. Start with an SDR or a BDR role for that matter.
Yeah, yeah.
And then if you've also done sales, then it will be
Mm-hmm.
easier for you to move up the ladder and get to an AE position pretty easily,
Right.
right? So relevancy is very important, and then just learn about the industry. There's so much of free stuff on the internet right now about every company, every product, what works,
Mm.
what doesn't work. You can prepare for an interview. Use those mediums to upgrade yourself in
Mm.
the process.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Pretty much what you said covers the three aspects what I believe in. So your mindset, your skill set, and your tool set. So all three together, if you combine, then you will be able to get that outcome that you want. Right.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed this conversation, Rohit. It was it was like me having a one-on-one mentor session or a master class to understand these things and better. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for giving your time today. One last question. It's a typical question, right? How anyone would want to end their podcast. What is it that, what is that one tip or guidance that you would want to give to a lot of folks out there in the market who want to get into SaaS sales for any kind of role? What is that one thing they should keep on mind which can help them?
The one thing that I would say that they need to focus on, I would say two, rather not one,
Mm-hmm.
because one is keep upgrading yourself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
keep reading, keep learning about the trends in the market, see what other people are doing, uh, keep learning, keep evolving
Mm-hmm.
as a sales rep. Number two
Mm-hmm.
is consistency. Like I said, if you do 80% of your work
Mm-hmm.
consistently, day over day, you will do 100% of your job. So no
Right.
matter what role you are in, make sure that you're putting in the effort every single day. That's the key to success,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think,
And three,
yeah.
I'll add a third one to it. Have a
Uh-huh.
life outside of your office.
Right.
That's very important. A lot of us have come from the COVID era and we've
Mm.
understood that life is not so easy for everyone.
Yeah.
Pick up a hobby. Could be reading a book, could be riding a bike, could be
Mm.
going to the gym, right?
Yeah.
Pick up a hobby where you can unwind yourself,
Right. Right. Yeah.
because
Makes
the
sense.
best way to perform is when you have
Mm-hmm.
a clear mind, a clear thought process, right? And if you're clouded with all the negative things in life, right,
Mm-hmm.
then you won't be able to perform. Pick
Yeah.
up a hobby where you can relax, unwind, and then give 100%. That's it. Your job should be your primary. Everyone says your family should be your primary. Your family will always, don't even compare these two things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once that is done, your job should be your primary because that's your bread and butter. That gives you money at the end
Right.
of the day. That helps you survive. That helps you feed your family. So, what are
Mm.
you doing to scale yourself, learn more things, and be
Mm-hmm.
100% at your job. Always remember that.
Right. Yeah. 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 Thank you so much for that. I think that if there is one message I would take uh, for myself as a learning from this conversation, yeah, do 80% at least every day, day in, day out consistently, and you will eventually reach 100%. Right. That's something I've written it down on a piece of paper here. I'll stick it on my work desk as well. That'll keep me motivated, I feel. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rohit. I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope you did
Same here.
too. A lot of insights that our audience are going to get from this conversation, which can help them make these transitions, get themselves prepared for the next role they're planning to apply, and understand account management in a bit more detail and how they can excel into it.